Hey, what's up? This is Michael Campanaro coming at you with another episode of Ecommerce, the complete guy. I don't know. I need to change the name of this podcast at some point. Anyways, if you haven't listened to my previous messages or my previous podcast, I'm jumping in here without much of an outline to start discussing some topics that come up around e-commerce and marketing on a daily basis in my company, Porters, which is a 360 marketing consultant company that works with brands of all different sizes. Like I said, my name is Michael Campanaro. I've worked with brands, I've worked with agencies, I've owned businesses, I have really gotten my hands dirty in a lot of different areas, and I just want to help out other people with newer businesses or existing businesses that want to take their marketing and e-commerce to the next level. So keep listening along, subscribe, and hopefully this podcast keeps improving. I want to jump right in here and not waste any time. I'm at the office right now and trying to get out of here and want to make sure that I get something done today. And hopefully you're on the similar work schedule of craziness and you're grinding and making a bunch of moves in your company. And you don't want to waste any more time. So the first thing I want to talk about are the 5 common issues with e-commerce brands that I see with regard to their websites. So I recently did a presentation where I had the ability to audit like over 10 websites. I can't remember how many, but there was a lot of websites. I was able to look through them, give a bunch of feedback to people, and come back with them with some actionable items to update their sites. And I found just really common problems amongst each one of those that were really relatable. So I thought I'd share them right here. I feel like you're probably experiencing some similar ones, and it's a good chance for you to take a step back, look at your site with a new set of eyes, and imagine like you'd never seen it before, and think about whether or not you're checking off these boxes. So number 1, I see overcomplicated navigation constantly. I see navigations that are having hovers with a ton of different categories or collections underneath them. And when I see that, I think that there's like a lot of assumption that the user already knows about your product line. They're already sort of like you already think that they know which collections they should be shopping by. And that's usually not the case. Unless you're maybe like an outdoor sports brand, or if you're a bedding company, I think that those might be like an exception to this topic, because I think that those categories of navigation around those kind of product lines are pretty similar like throughout different websites. But if you're a product that doesn't have a big following, or like, I don't know, like you have some unique products, you really can't have like an overcomplicated navigation. And I've really steered a lot of people into stripping their drop downs away and just getting people on the shop all page as fast as possible. In a lot of cases, I've seen that has in itself just increased conversions and lowered bounce rates just by getting people to the products, especially if you have a small catalog. And the other thing that we do once we land them there is have more of a sub navigation. So in some ways, having like little filterable navigations, little images that represent different areas of the collection, or for some companies you might have like more visual ways of getting you into different areas of those that full catalog. So think about your navigation. Also think about how it looks on mobile, and that's really the next number. I mean, really it should be number 1, but not optimizing for mobile. I'm actually can't believe we still are talking about this. It's constant. Mobile shoppers make up for almost like 75%, 80% of shoppers online are buying on their mobile devices. So like, why are we even wasting our time with desktop? I have seen some sites with even having like some decent conversions on desktop still, but I think that all depends on the brand and what you're selling and the age of your audience. But in any case, like, let's start optimizing for mobile first. Maybe build your website around mobile. If you already have an existing site, on a regular basis, you should be searching on mobile. If you're running test orders, run them on mobile. Test how it feels to be experiencing your site on mobile, and also have other people test it too. I've actually seen sites that haven't even made their site like responsive for mobile. So you'll go on their site and it looks like a modified version of desktop, and I've actually seen that a lot. There are some sites where I feel like they do that purposefully because they have an app or another place to access the site that they want you to almost have a more difficult time on mobile, so that it forces you to have the app experience instead. So if you're doing that, I kind of understand, but at the same time, let's at least make it easier to navigate on mobile. And if your site is not accessible on mobile, then that would be the number one thing I'd take care of first. The other thing is that we oftentimes make updates on desktop, or people make updates on desktop and don't check mobile to see how it looks, or even just like think about on mobile how that looks. But and if you're adding, like, for example, if you're adding a lot of content to your product descriptions, that can be pushing your add to cart button down below the fold or below the page too low. That then might actually keep people from like scrolling down and actually thinking about adding that product to cart, or even as simple as like making certain areas of the site sticky for mobile so that the user doesn't have to scroll all the way back up or navigate back and forth between the site in a way that they have a poor user experience. So anyways, you can look into that one more, but that's definitely a very common issue that I see. The third thing that I also see is people having too many product options. So they're actually not simplifying their product line enough. They think that they actually need more. I see that a lot too. So people will come to their sites, I think, on their own, looking at it, and they're like, we have a collection and there's only 3 products. It just doesn't look like we have enough. So then they try to think of like different combinations they can make of their products. They maybe make bundles. They might make like multiple bundles with kind of confusing names. And I see that often. I see that there's this almost anxiety about not having enough, when in actuality you could have a lot less and it would probably convert better. I'd also say if you have small catalogs, then maybe you should think about having better product pages, better and navigating people directly to them instead of like sending them to a collection page. I think that having too many product options just makes more questions, and if it's not totally necessary, then why do it? So first and foremost, question whether or not it's necessary for you to have those extra options, and also how could you consolidate them into one product page if that's appropriate for the brand. So always be thinking about like, does this make sense for the shopper? Is this how your brain would work if you're shopping for this product? And make sure that you're not offering too much. Personally, I abandon a lot of sites when there's just too many options. It makes me think way too much and be less spontaneous about my purchase. If you have people on your site, you have a captive audience and you want them to convert before they leave, just think about it like you had a retail store and you want somebody to buy something before they head out. You obviously don't want to be too pushy about it. You want to guide them into making that decision before they leave, but you don't want to overload them with information because you'll actually oversell, essentially like say too much and they leave. So try to say less. And that actually goes into my next topic here, is that oftentimes I see that people are using way too much copy and they don't have a simplified message and they're using way too much text on the site. So this not only like creates a situation where someone has to read a lot if they even have that attention span, but it also creates a lot of clutter on your site, creating almost like an overwhelming feeling. And whether or not you are consciously recognizing that, subconsciously, if there's a lot of information on a page and you're not selling something that actually requires someone to know all of that right off the bat, you're likely saying too much. So really think about what your customer is trying to gain, or what they might be, what kind of problem they're trying to solve, and lead with that first. Don't lead with a ton of product details unless it's like really, really important, but leave those things in places that someone can discover when they're looking for them. Lead with stronger headlines, use way less copy. I'd say I read something today that said, like, if you can remove something out of a sentence, always remove it, like from a copywriter's perspective. And I would say I would echo that, really. I think that's a good piece of advice. A lot of the times people will send me things that they wrote and they'll ask me to read it and rewrite it for them. And a lot of what I do is just really see how much I can simplify it and push that as far as I can go and say the same exact thing they're saying with less words. And I would say that would really help even clean up the design of your site and make more of a focus. Lastly, like the other thing I'd see, and I kind of mentioned this before, is but not having a secondary navigation or collection navigation that's on your collection navigation page, but not, and if you're having it, but not having it be sticky. So, for example, if you go into a shop all category and then you had like a sub collection of navigation that said like sheets, comforters. I don't know why I'm in this bedding thing, but if you're thinking about like sheets, comforters, or like sub navigation items, and somebody scrolls down the page, and this would definitely be if you have a larger catalog too, you still want them to be able to navigate at all times. You don't want them to have to scroll back up to figure that out again. You really want that accessible, especially on mobile. Like, you really want that right. I mean, even at their thumb, or like somewhere that's actually accessible, and just always present too. So you should have your main navigation. Let's say we're talking about mobile, have that in the hamburger like view with your header kind of always available there, so they can navigate throughout the entire site. But also on a collection, you want to be able to navigate within that collection a little bit easier, especially if you're sending somebody directly to the shop page. So those are the top 5 things. I could keep going on and on, but those are the things, like, over and over again I see that are issues for e-commerce brands on their e-commerce sites. I think that there's a lot of things that you can do to improve past that and beyond that, but I'd say that if you could start just going through that kind of as a checklist, go through your site and make sure that start questioning yourself a little bit, make sure that you're not doing that. Of course, if you need a second set of eyes, you can always contact me at michael@porters.io. You can also go on our website and shoot us a message. It's porters.io. But yeah, so that's my episode for today. I appreciate you dealing with the fact that I have not fully scripted this out, and it probably doesn't sound as buttoned up like other podcasts, but I can assure you I'm just being real, and I am not really trying to sell you anything. So, so stick around, and let's hang out and talk more about these topics around e-commerce and marketing. Again, this is Michael Campanaro with the e-commerce and digital marketing, blah, 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 complete guide. The name's going to change. I will talk to you later.